Now we're recording. Oh my God. Y'all don't know. It took us like an hour and a half to set up. Guys, this is our first episode. This is our first official episode. Welcome back to the Get Paid to Live podcast. My name is Iffy.
I didn't know we were doing it like that.
Welcome to the Get Paid to Live podcast. My name is Iffy.
And I'm Shaw.
And guys, we're not prepared. We were working so hard on the setup that we don't even know what we're going to say. But no, I just want to quickly address the elephant in the room. We're in a new space.
We're like, I thought this was the first episode.
We're in a new space. Remo Workspaces was kind enough to let us use the space for another day. And we were like, hell yeah, it looks great. We're in a golf course. There's nothing more Texas than this. And I'm loving the vibes. Even though it's a golf course, it feels like we're like in the middle of Sweden.
Yeah.
It feels very European.
A lot of woods.
Yeah, and it's really nice. So I just wanted to address that. We are in a new space. Don't get used to it unless you're trying to buy me a coffee or something, because it does cost money. But this was the perfect setup for the kickoff of our podcast.
That's cool.
And if you watch episode 0, that's our normal setup. So I hope you like that one. This is just a treat. I wrote up a little love letter for you guys. Okay. Welcome to the Get Paid to Live podcast. This is a space where we explore how we live first and get paid second. Whether you're an entrepreneur, you work for someone else, or you're just curious about creating your dream life, in these episodes, you'll find the inspiration, the tips, and the motivation on how to navigate that process through our honest reflections as new entrepreneurs and candid interviews with ambitious everyday dreamers just like you and I. So
I like that.
Thank you. Episode 0, we accidentally filmed that, by the way. So if you haven't watched it, please watch episode 0. It was a podcast setup that turned into us just talking. And
tech setup.
It was a tech setup, and it turned into an episode because we just like talking to each other about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great metaphor for the reason that we started the podcast, which was because we are always talking about our mindset, our ambitions, our journey as new entrepreneurs, or just people who've always been entrepreneurial curious our whole life. We've always been having these conversations, and that's the reason we started this podcast, because we want to talk about it. And we're typically the only people that we can talk to in depth about it without, the other person getting bored or not really getting it. So we were like, damn, that must suck if people don't have someone like you and I, or like maybe a partner or a friend or whoever who's doing it to talk to about it. And so we were like, why don't we just share our like shitty off the cuff conversations with other people, and hopefully attract other people who are looking to do something differently with their life, live intentionally, and start something, like build something. Whether you want to start a physical business, online business, or not even a business, but just like live your life authentically and truly based on what you want to do, and not just kind of like work for someone else's dream. That is very hard. So congrats for choosing to do it. And we want to be the area or the space for people to talk about it and just
support each other. Because like you said, it's fucking hard. We love to cuss. Entrepreneurship is hard. It's just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like uncertainty, highs and lows. So doing it alone is even harder than doing it with at least one other person. Yeah. So hopefully some kind of value comes out of these conversations.
Yeah. Before we kind of get into that, let's just describe who the fuck we are. Who the heck we are.
Who are you? We're just your entrepreneur friends that you don't have living in your same city or in your same neighborhood or whatever. You know, we're your friends down the street virtually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
My name's Iffy. I'm 26 years old. My full name's Ifeoma Ahuna. I'm Nigerian. I was born in Houston, Texas.
Basically Nigeria.
I kind of grew up in like a pretty, go-getter immigrant family, like a lot of people. I think we both did. And I went to college in Dallas. I went to the University of Texas at Dallas, and that's where we both met each other. And I studied supply chain management and marketing. I did a double major. Worked in corporate for a year, hated it. I quit and I have a whole blog and YouTube video about that. And I quit. I decided to actually go towards my passion, which is marketing. And I loved marketing. I freelanced in it after I quit suddenly for like 2.5 years. And I have recently decided to stop freelancing to pursue entrepreneurship full time, which is, for me, that looks like content creation, making things like this, the podcast, my blog, my TikTok, my YouTube, my Instagram, and then also helping people, consulting people on their own content creation. So I have a few clients that I've been working with, and I have a course that I'm working on called the Content Bootcamp. I think the future is personal brands, baby. So
damn.
Yeah, that's my little intro.
Hell yeah. I'm Shah, short for Shaheen. I'm not Nigerian, but I am Persian. My parents came here from Iran, immigrant parent situation. So used to being around people just hustling and trying to figure it out, trying to find some money, put it together, and just make a living. Born and raised in Dallas, Texas, still in the area. I went to school with this beauty at University of Texas at Dallas. I didn't study supply chain and marketing.
I love how your bio is the opposite of
yeah,
mine.
it is the opposite. I studied physics, and then after I graduated, I went and worked at my dad's car dealership. Very Persian of him and me. And I did that for about 1.5 years until I went back to grad school to study physics even more. And then eventually I kind of got wrapped up in the whole research world, accidentally got a PhD. Then I graduated from there. Graduated and started working as a data scientist at Toyota Financial Services. Did that for about 1 year, and then just a few months ago I left that full-time role to go all in on this entrepreneurship thing. So what that looks like is making content like this, YouTube videos about data science, machine learning, AI, entrepreneurship. I do freelance and consulting, so I help clients, get more value out of their data-driven decision making using AI and analytics to solve business problems. And then I also run a community called the Data Entrepreneurs, which is basically for people that are in the data space, but also have that entrepreneurial itch. They want to start a business, they want to pursue something, they want to build something. That's what I've been up to, and that's kind of the 60-second version of it.
Yeah, it's probably like 2 or 120 seconds.
It's fucking too long.
We got to work on our elevator pitches, but
yeah.
No, I thought that was important to know just because it probably gives so much context to everything we're going to talk about. His content is more, tailored around a niche like data science, entrepreneurship. My content is more lifestyle and just like what I think and my mindset about how to live, basically, which I never really said that until now.
How to get paid to live.
The last episode we kind of covered like this podcast is not really supposed to be about money, even though that's very like prevalent in the title, but it is something that we feel positively about and can really happen if you go towards this lifestyle of getting paid to live. That begs the question, what the hell does that even mean? What does getting paid to live mean?
Tell me, you want me to go first?
Did you see how I did that like segue? That was
that was cute.
That was good.
I like that.
Yeah.
At face value, getting paid to live is what that sounds like to me is you are living your life and somehow money is entering your bank account through that. What that's not is like doing things you don't want to do, like doing things that don't fit into your life. You know what I mean?
There's a track and the things you don't want to do are on the outside of it.
Right. So this might be like, working a job that you don't like, for example. I think that's probably the most common. Or studying something that your parents want you to study and not what you want to study. You have to do things that aren't 100% aligned in life. Like you have to do things that are uncomfortable, that you don't like, that are out of scope, that aren't part of your path or your ideal path in life. But that's not to say that you can't get there. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen overnight, but if you pursue it and every single day you take steps toward that life, toward that path, it's possible. It's achievable. And I feel entrepreneurship is just a perfect fit for that message because entrepreneurship is basically the only opportunity most people have of creating their ideal job, creating the job that 100% aligns with what they want and what they value.
Crazy 100%.
Yeah.
We were just talking about it as we were setting up. Again, just our conversations are this podcast. But when you're creating a life for yourself, like intentionally creating the life, not just like showing up by default.
Yeah.
you are literally crafting a job that is tailored around your skills. You're not trying to fit your skills into a box that already exists. So when you're creating a life where you get paid to live, that's the whole idea. Everything that you naturally are good at or naturally do is something that is getting you income by nature. And that is not necessarily in a literal sense, but we were giving an example of like a stay-at-home mom, right? Like if a woman's dream is to be a stay-at-home mom and she finds a husband that is good to her and can afford for both him and her to live comfortably on his income, and that's been her dream, that's her goal, and she gets to go to Pilates, she gets to pick up her kids and, you know, make them cute lunches and do all these things and even make content about it. I don't know, whatever it is. If she gets to do those things, she's getting paid to live because that's stuff she already wants to do. She found an income source, which is the man, and he's going to pay for her to do that, and that is getting paid to live, and it can look differently.
But and then the opposite of that, if that, you know, that woman is like a go-getter, an entrepreneur, she wants to start a business, and then she's kind of stuck in that situation of being a housewife because someone has to take care of the kids, and like her husband can make more income than her and it makes more sense for her to stay at home, then she's not getting paid to live. You know, even though she may be getting value out of that lifestyle, it's not 100% aligned with what she wants to get out of life. Exactly. So getting paid to live is subjective. You know what I mean? Two people in the same exact situation, one could be getting paid to live based on their goals and values, and the other person could not.
Exactly. And that's what I think is the beauty of that message. And it kind of stemmed from, and originally this podcast was supposed to be just about entrepreneurship. We were just going to be talking about our businesses and our journey through it. Even though we overlap a lot, we're doing two different things in a way. But then we were thinking about it, and we'll get to values in a second later. We were thinking about it, and it's like our values are both centered on getting paid to live. Our message that we put out there, mine is basically get paid to live, but it's my mission for my company is to be authentic, be 100% yourself and get paid to do it. And then his mission is unlocking human potential. So when you really think about it, it's like you really unlock your full potential when you're being yourself. Like you can't,
when it's 100% aligned.
Exactly. Like you can't do that without taking all the excess out. And it's like, that's the point of this message, is to really shed all the stuff that's not you, because that's the first step. If you're not being authentic to yourself, you're not even going to know what getting paid to live looks like. You know?
And I'll just use a concrete example. Like when I was at Toyota, you know, I love my coworkers, I love the job, but it was never that 100% alignment. Most of the time it was at 60 to 80%, which honestly is fantastic. You know what
and
I mean?
If you're getting paid, you know, a decent amount,
you know, if you're 60 to 80% is really like good. I mean, before that, maybe I was at like 50%. And then even earlier in life, I was probably at like 20%, like not really kind of aligning or doing the things that I want to do. But slowly over time, you know, getting like when I was at Palomino, it's like, I like working with my dad. I like working in a small business, but I wasn't stimulated intellectually. I wasn't making any real money. But then I went to grad school and I was scratching that curiosity itch, like that kind of hunger to learn, you know? And then I was learning like very valuable skills and very practical skills for solving real world problems. And then I feel like I leveled up. I got more aligned. But I really wasn't making money in grad school, you know, making like $2,000 a month as a grad student. And then in Toyota, it's like, oh, I'm still getting that practical skill set, seeing how a huge enterprise works on the inside, scratching that itch, to that hunger to learn and that curiosity, and I was getting money, but there was still a piece missing, which it wasn't my business. It wasn't my thing. I wasn't able to build it. I didn't have control over the direction of the company.
And you wanted, I mean, not necessarily that company, but you wanted that kind of position where you would have control. You could, I mean, we talk about this all the time. There's nothing worse, especially as someone who identifies as an entrepreneur. There's nothing worse than having the skills to execute and you don't have the freedom to choose how the situation is going to turn out. So that's where I always found myself in like my freelance jobs. Like I feel like I can execute. I know how to make it happen. And maybe like, okay, of course I don't know exactly the correct path. Like there's still trial and error, but I have the skills to figure that out and go through that process. But I don't have control over the outcome because I'm not the biggest decision maker.
That's hard.
And it just gets pent up and you end up doing so much work for people and you're just not fulfilled the same way.
Yeah.
It never hits the same way.
Yeah.
My YouTube videos can suck. Like my content can suck, right? But like I have control over the outcome. Like I can cry and get mad and feel frustrated, but still I can choose to show up tomorrow and change direction. I can choose, you know, how it works out. And that to me is fulfilling. Like that process is fulfilling. Yeah. And I don't care how crazy my life looks. I'm having a great time. Like truly.
Yeah. And just to put a bow on it, like now, you know, after Toyota, I feel like I'm in that next echelon, that 80 to 100% alignment. You know, like I'm not making as much money as I was making at Toyota.
We're living off savings, by the way.
Yeah. So
anyone's curious.
Living off savings at the moment. But I feel like every waking moment I'm engaged and I'm doing work that I find very rewarding. And I feel like this is the dream life. You know what I mean? If we can somehow just keep doing what we're doing.
Like just try to pay month to month, figure out like how much money we can make just to stay afloat for another month. Like truly, this is fun. Yeah. This is like so much more fun.
And then that would be us getting paid to live.
Yes.
Like if we're not homeless and able to do like maintain our daily schedules, or like our day-to-day that we have right now, I think then we've done it.
We've done, exactly. And I think, let me just preface, like there is, I always think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'll put it here, but you definitely need to take care of the first few levels, okay, of like being alive, because it's going to be hard to think about what do I like to do for fun if you're trying to figure out what you're going to eat tonight. Like I think there is some kind of like prepare for yourself, but I think the trick and the problem actually with a lot of people our age, and we'll get into all of this because I have lots of opinions on it, but you don't need as much as you think. I think that's the problem. We try to over prepare. Like I can't leave my job. I can't, you know, pursue what I want to do because I'm not going to have enough money. I think older people, I'm just going to call them out. I think older people, because they care about you, like they're your parents or grandparents, like your bosses, and they see you as a young person and they're scared for you, and it makes sense. They kind of scare you into thinking you need all of this stuff. Like you need a house, you need a 6-figure income, health insurance. I'm like, yes, okay, yeah, generally that is true. But okay, just say you quit, okay, with enough to survive for the next 3 months, and that freaks people out. Like I get it, and I'm only saying this because I've actually done it, and I would not say that if it wasn't true. I quit with $6,000 in my bank account, which was partly my retirement. So let's just get that clear. I'm not a saver, so I live life on the edge on a rig. But I quit with $6,000 in my bank account. At that point, I was not, mommy and daddy were not paying for things. Like this is all me, and the only thing I think that my parents were paying for was my phone bill. So like my expenses were like $3,000 to $4,000 a month, and I had 6. Okay, so I figured out how to make that stretch for $6,000. I'm not somebody who's like a math person. Actually, that's the problem. And that taught me a lot, because ironically, I was very happy during that time, partly depressed because I was like leaving this structure and this mold of corporate and always having an institution in my life. And that was very scary to navigate on my own, because I had never had to have a routine outside of work at school. But the other half of me felt so free and like liberated. And you have so much time when it's not taken up by a job. Like I don't think you realize how much time you have and how much you can actually output without people telling you what to do. If you struggle with that, maybe like even with an employer, consider why that is first. But if you're somebody who knows you can execute and you feel like, oh my God, I'm not gonna have enough time, blah, blah, blah. Like the time, I feel like when you quit your job, like afterwards, I feel like it's like 1 hour is like 2.
Yeah.
You know?
I resonate with that. It just goes back to that point that this doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. It's a gradual process. The timetable for you getting to this point where you can kind of really go all in on the content stuff, you know? I feel like you've been developing these skills since high school even. You know what I mean? You were doing DECA, you're practicing speech and communication. And then in SWAB, you know, doing we were event planners in college, and the organization was called SWAB. And in SWAB, you're learning how to execute and be organized and plan events. And then in corporate, you were learning how to, you know,
talk to people,
internal meetings and bullshitting, I guess.
Whatever you do,
whatever this is, but I guess being a professional, and then that allowed you to start becoming a freelancer, and then freelance in social media marketing allowed you to kind of learn how to monetize being a content creator. So I feel like this has been, I don't know, you're 26?
2015 was when I graduated.
So it's like 8 years in the making. You know what I mean? So it's not something that happens overnight. Yeah. But you were always moving in that direction. Correct. And that's what it's all about. Correct. It's about making those baby steps, at least the way I see it. It's all about making the baby steps toward it. Yeah, there are going to be those moments where you have to take a leap, like when you left Ericsson, like when you dropped all your freelance clients. But it is still like a gradual process. Right.
And everybody has a version of this. That's I wrote down an example. If you need more clarity on like what getting paid to live can look like and what it is, it's a mindset. I see getting paid to live as a way you think. And I try to explain it in this scenario. So like he was saying, it could be the same life, two different ways of thinking about it. Yeah. So two people, they have a job, 9 to 5. One person thinks this job is paying me to do my passions. Yeah. The money that I'm getting from this job is being put straight towards my life, right? So it's more like a resource rather than a crutch. And this person, like just say when they get home from work, they are working on their YouTube channel. Yep. Okay. They're editing videos, they're scripting, they're writing, they're doing all these things. They're posting, they're getting engagement, just working on it day in, day out, any moment they have that's not at the job. So all the money that they're getting is being put towards camera equipment, investing in outfits or whatever the heck, right, for their channel. Why that's important is because when you start seeing your job or whatever it is in your life that maybe is unfavorable for the moment as a resource, you start making the thing that you're doing on your free time the main character. So you notice how I'm saying like in your free time, essentially you wouldn't even think of it as like, this is my free time.
This is my main time.
This is my main time.
My job is the free time.
Exactly.
Like, the off
exactly.
time.
It's like that's the
second act.
Exactly. You want to make your free time or the thing that you're doing that you really want to do the main character.
You want to prioritize it. That's the priority.
It. Literally do it. Like I started to have a switch. The last year I was in corporate. Like I love editing videos. Like I just kept remembering, and I'm not even like the best editor. I use like a really ghetto system too. But
it's fun.
It's fun. I loved it. And I was like, I would love to do this all day. And I would start when work from home was just starting to become a thing. I would, in between meetings, edit, I would film, I would like make TikTok videos. And I was like, this is amazing. And I remember my life started to feel like, God, what is this pest in my way? And it was like, it was my job. And I know that can be like kind of like bad and toxic in a way, but really mentally, I was always looking out for the main character, which was my editing and my content. Because when people would schedule meetings with me, I knew I already had in my schedule, like at lunchtime, I'm filming, right? Because that's generally when people in corporate are like, taking their lunch, doing their thing. So I would say, okay, during this time, I'm going to edit or I'm going to film something. And then if I had a meeting or things come up, I'd be like, oh, actually, can we move it to 3? Like I would start making room for that thing. And you notice how like that doesn't happen unless you start identifying it as a main character. If I was not, just say I still wanted to be a YouTuber, I still wanted to do content, all this stuff, but I wasn't making a plan for it, I would be like, oh yeah, you can schedule at lunchtime. Right. Like I would make
the job the priority.
Exactly. And then my life would revolve around the job. When it's like your job needs to revolve around your life. Yeah. That's how the mindset can impact you. And I think unintentionally I was doing it at the time and I didn't know. But the other person, for the other scenario, this job is taking up all their time and their free time is used to prepare for the job that they don't like. And they're living the same life and they have the same amount of time. We all have the same amount of time in the day. And this person has made their job the main character. Yeah. So they are literally not just working for someone else's dream. They're living for someone else's dream. And sure, some people can counter that and say like, I don't care about I don't feel like I'm giving myself to someone else's dream. But if you're free, if your main time, your 9 to 5 time is used to work for that person and it doesn't align with yours, like period. And then your free time is used to prepare for this thing that doesn't align with you, then you are living for someone else's dream. And if you don't feel the impact of how much that is taking away from your life, you were chosen to live this life. I don't care what you believe. You were chosen to live this life that you have. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have internet, so that's a privilege. You can see and hear and all of these things. That is something not everybody has. So you are taking those precious gifts, and you have dreams and desires that are meant for you and only you can fulfill. And you are putting a pause on that. You're saying hold, because I need to do something else for someone else. And again, emphasis on like, it doesn't overlap with yours. If you have an employer and you're like, okay, I need experience, or, I need to learn something from this person, or, I don't love everything about my job, but it's teaching me something. It's teaching me discipline. It's teaching me about programming. It's teaching me about marketing. Like, that's a different story. But if you are like, this job has zero benefit to me other than money, please just take a moment to reevaluate that your life is so much more precious than you're giving it credit for. And you have a whole universe that is being put on hold. I don't even watch the Marvel movies that much, but what's that one with all the universes? Doctor Strange. That's what it makes me think of. It makes you like, I know that they're supposed to be simultaneously going on, right? But like, imagine you're not even trying to look and see what the possibilities are. You're not even like, don't even know what's possible. And you're just saying it's okay because I need money. What do you need the money for? Right. What is the money for if it's not for your life? And if you, in that scenario, if you're living for someone else's dream, what do you need the money for then? You need the money so you can keep living for them. Wherever you are is a starting place. Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe you're getting the money, but maybe you're getting the money at your job, but maybe it's not in the right industry, or maybe you're not learning the right skills, or maybe it's not the right role that you want to be working in. What you can do is like, okay, I checked one box, but I have like 3 boxes unchecked. Is it possible for me to find another job, maybe just in the right industry, or at the right company, or in the right direction, so I can just check one more box, and then let me do that for some period of time, and then let me reevaluate and see if I can check another box. This approach to it is just a checklist that you're ultimately just going down, and you're not going to do it overnight, but like over the course of years, you can check off everything on your list, and this is your dream list. This is your dream life. Yeah, exactly. And just slowly just keep going, because what else are you going to do in your life if not check everything off this list? It's like your bucket list. The thing is, it's like, I like how you put the getting close to your vision. That's your dream life. I see it as like this percentage bar. Yeah. Right. It's like, okay, this job is 70%. And that's okay. Like, if like, okay, this is not 100% aligned, but I'm using it for X. I'm using it as a resource for this other thing. Totally fine. You can't be at 100% like at 20. Like, that's really hard to do. I mean, some people maybe. But like, I like how you put it in a percentage, because it allows you to just be aware. Yeah, it's just it allows intention, you to take inventory of your life. You know what I mean? Exactly. And then I like the other metaphor of the checklist, because how you're talking about it is a very custom checklist. Yep, it's not one size fits all. Pick it up. What we do is that we take the checklist list off the shelf from like Walmart or something. We don't even custom order it. Check corporate, check spouse, check house, dog, check child. Like at specific times, right? Like, you're not just checking these things off the shelf checklist. It's like, okay, go to college from this age to this age. Make sure you find your spouse from this age to this age. Make sure you get married. That's how everybody's life's supposed to fit. You get the house at this point in your life. Okay, you guys are married? Get the house next. Okay, next, make the kids. It's like, that's what we're all living off of. And those can be on your custom checklist. Exactly. But your true custom checklist is going to be very different, even if it has a bit of overlap. Exactly. I think you can use the default checklist as a guide. Rearrange it though. Be intentional about it. Think about it a little bit more. Does that actually make sense with what you want and to be happy? Yeah. Like, if you foresee yourself working for a long period because you want to build a brand off the ground, does it make sense to have kids right now? I mean, if you want it, great. But like, if it feels like that just doesn't fit with where I see everything, when I think about the day-to-day with the child and what I have to do, it does not make me happy. Yeah. You don't have to do it right now. Like, you don't have to. If college doesn't make sense right now, or you don't feel pulled to a degree, if you don't feel pulled to a job, and like, okay, you graduated and everyone's like, okay, it's time to get a job, and you're like, that just, in my heart, that does not make sense right now, then explore it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but explore it. Yeah. Be intentional. Just be aware of why you feel things and investigate it. And I think that's the problem of why many of us are not getting paid to live, is we're not thinking about it. We're taking the list off the shelves and we're saying, this is what I have to do. There are no instructions for life. We made that up. Like, we made that up. Do you see how in every period of history there's people living all kinds of ways? Because we don't know what we're doing. No, they didn't know. Those cavemen didn't fucking know what they were doing. Like, we don't know what we're doing. We're just figuring it out. The only respect I have for those cavemen is that they were living authentically. They were doing their thing because there was no one to, they were creating it. They were making it. And I think as we got more technologically savvy and like advanced and everything, we were like, oh yeah, so, you know, no one needs to create anything from scratch because we already have all these examples. We already have so much to look on. We already have so much technology to figure everything out. And like, you know, just listen to these institutions because that's what they're for. They were built to help people, you know, figure out their life. But somewhere in there, it got lost that you still have to figure it out. Like there's no escaping the reality of life. Like, right. It's still going to be there. And if you don't create the hard in your life, life will create hard for you. Right. So like, you can try to make your life as comfortable as possible, cruise through corporate, cruise through school, not have to think in your life, but you will find yourself in the hard that you actually don't want. Yeah. You know, I'd rather create my hard than let life give it to me because it's not going to be cute. It's giving depressed dungeon and cancer. That leads me to, okay, how do you know like the life that you're supposed to live? Like, how do you decide what that vision looks like so you know what you're working towards? You know how you know what to compare your progress bar to. I think personally, we need more values. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think enough people take values seriously. I feel it's just this like cliche, or maybe even like it's perceived as some like bullshit thing that companies do.
It's like, oh yeah, like
these are our values.
It
kind
almost
of situation.
Feels like that's the off the shelf thing. Like mission, vision, values. And if you never heard of them, I'll put the definitions on the screen because I never really like understood it. I would always hear it in business school. I hear it almost like off the shelf. Like, make sure you have a mission. It's like
and
a checklist.
I feel like that kind of like put people off because it's now this boring whatever thing. But I feel like those are the most important thing because those are going to be what give you structure. That's what gives you a sense of direction in life, because life is just this wilderness. It's just this wild jungle, and you really have no idea what direction to go in if you don't have any goals and you don't have any values.
Period. I did not realize how important it was to have like, you would think, oh, I'm not a business, I don't need to have mission, I don't need to have a mission, a vision, values, whatever. That like, that's for entities that don't have like feelings and stuff. Everybody needs values, like at the very least. Okay, mission, vision, you might want to craft around like what you want to do with your life and your purpose. But values, I think every breathing being needs that. Because
so why don't we define values? Like, what's your definition of it?
I actually wrote this down because I thought it was such a good way to put it.
Okay.
So we were talking about in the car. I think values, in my definition, are constraints that free you in the face of endless possibilities.
Wow.
That was kind of a combination of us talking about it, but like, they're just good constraints. They basically help you make decisions. That's how I see it.
Yeah. They allow you to make value judgments, value assessments. Like, you have option 1, option 2. It's like, oh, how do I choose? Well, you don't, just make the decision based on money.
Right.
Don't just make the decision based on what your parents want or what you think society wants. You make the decision based on the value of
your values. And you get to choose them. That's the great part. And I feel that like choosing your values are very freeing. I've made TikToks about like how to choose it and values tests, but truly you could just look it up on Google, type in like values test, and essentially what all of the tests are going to do is give you a list of values, which I don't know who determined these values. So that's another philosophical question to get into, because like, are we choosing really? But anyway.
Well, but I mean, that's not the only way to do it, because I feel like I've taken a different approach to values. I really like your definition. I take like a really simple one, and values are just what you care about.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, like, I guess I didn't pick off a word bank.
Yeah.
But the 3 top values I arrived at just through reflection is relationships, because I value being with people. I value conversations like this. You know, I just value other humans. Freedom is another big one for me. You know what I mean?
Okay, before we get into it, can I finish explaining?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just gonna finish explaining the like how to choose yours. If you want to go the route of choosing it from a word bank, you can Google the values list. I like the one from James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits, and it's a simple list. How I did it in college, how I did it in corporate. I was actually doing an HR little like test with a group of leaders, and that helped me identify that I don't like this job. So that was ironic.
You can tell that story after.
I could tell that. I've told that so many times, but you know, essentially we were doing like a leadership summit, and we were supposed to do a values exercise. And so they gave us a list of these values. It's very similar to James Clear's. And how they did it in that little workshop was you choose your top 10, and then you choose your top 5 from your top 10. And then I think from there, if you want to take it another step further, you can get your top 3. And that just helps you narrow it down, because there's a lot of words on that list. But for example, it could be freedom. It could be, you know, authenticity, individuality, family, achievement, you know, things like that. Those are like the standard values. And that's how you identify like actually what you care about, what matters most to you. And I like thinking about my top 3 to 5 as my like big constraints. And then of course there's like the ones that come up, but they're not as important as my top 3 or 5. So but you were listing yours. You were saying.
So my top 3 I would say are relationships, freedom. You know, I don't know. I feel like I've always been a little rebel, maybe because I'm the youngest sibling. I don't know. So I really value freedom. And because like freedom is the only way you can really live and explore your dream life. Yeah. You know, if you don't have the freedom to explore, then you don't really have a chance. And then the last one is growth. You know what I mean? Like if you're not growing, I don't know what else you're doing. Because like the way I see it is that what life does is it grows. Like if you see a tree, what does a tree do? A tree grows. And if a tree's not growing, it's probably dead. You know? So growth is a key property of life.
Yeah, that's really good. Like, and it reminds me of that quote that's like, if you're not living, then you're dying. Yeah. You know, basically, which people tease about how like lame that sounds and like, oh, it's so cheesy, but like it's true. Like I said I was gonna bring this up, and I stick to my promise about Nick Cannon's quote that he did. Oh yeah. Nick Cannon recently went on the Diary of a CEO, the podcast, and he said a really cheesy quote, and everybody's been trolling him for it. He basically said something along the lines of, a lot of people think you need money to be happy, but really you need happy to have money and like, or to get money. And everybody's just like, you sound like an idiot.
But I get his point.
No, you know but he's right. Like, I don't care if you agree with his childbearing situation. Yeah. He is right. And like, I think celebrities don't know everything, and there's probably a lot that they're lacking, and you know, you don't want to look up to them for, but if someone has a track record of accumulating money over a long period of time, they probably know how to make money. And I'm not saying that has to be the most important thing to you, but it's so true. When you are happy and you are doing what you're supposed to do, if you're living in your constraints, your good constraints, people are attracted to that, because guess what? Not everybody's doing it. A lot of people are not doing it. Yeah. Whether you like Nick Cannon or not, he's living authentically. Nobody else is having 20 kids. Well, a lot of people are actually, but like, you know, it's like you're still attracted to it, whether that's negative or positive. Like, my point being is that living authentically, doing what you want to do, living in your world, the world you create for yourself, that is something that people admire. Either they look up to you, they like it, or they hate it, and they're going to have something to say, and they're going to start a conversation about it. And I think you should be in a situation where your values make you polarizing. Like, you should be attracting people just as much as you are repelling people. Right. If my values are freedom, I don't want somebody whose values are like very conservative, you know, because I want freedom. Like, that's what I'm going to want. Like, I know over time. And I think another way to look at like, how do I really know if this is my value? Like, look at your life. There are patterns, things you've left and things you've come close to.
Gone toward, yeah.
What what is causing that? I notice in my life, I leave a lot of situations where I don't have a lot of power, you know, and it's like, I like I feel and you know what I'm talking about, that feeling of like, oh my God, like a lot of us when we go on vacation, and I would analyze
or like the last day of school.
Anytime you are feeling like, damn, I'm on fire right now. Like you're feeling good. Like you below the waist wants to move. That's
okay. I didn't know about that.
No, one. Like, you know, when you just feel like, you know, you do that all the time. Just shut up. But basically, you feel like your brain almost feels like it's having an explosion. Last day of school, graduating, maybe for some, that didn't really happen for me, but going on vacation, I would really look at what you feel, and maybe you don't always have fun going on vacation, but like whatever you have, you can identify, I always have fun doing this. What is it that you're feeling when you're doing that thing? When I go on vacation, number one reason I feel good, I'm free. No schedule, no boss, no messages, no nothing. I can choose what I like to do. Guess what? That's not vacation that's necessarily giving it to me. It's allowing for it, but I can create freedom in all my situations, because that's what, and I feel like the values give you constraints, but they also give you the power to choose,
right?
You know, and it's like, instead of saying, oh, that means I have to live on vacation all the time. Okay, like maybe, but not really. I think it's the feelings that I get. How can I recreate those feelings on a day to day, you know? And then that's why for me, me having a vacation every day is the life I'm living right now. I am having the freedom to choose what I want to do every single day. That is peak dream life for me. That's like number one. Which is like our values overlap a lot.
What are your top three?
My top three
said freedom
is number one. Like I will always, like I can't even express how much that is number one for me. Two has to be, it's a tie between authenticity and fun.
Okay.
Which I'll just say authenticity, because usually if I'm being authentic, that's a situation where I'm typically having fun.
Yeah.
But I need to be myself. And again, they're very similar. Like I need to be free in order to be myself, and I need to be myself to have fun. Right. And then my other one is creativity. Okay. I need to be having fun so that I can be creative. It's like, I think my last one is, or for my top 5 is growth. Yeah. And that's also tied with achievement. But I think typically when I'm growing, I'm achieving things. So I would cascade it like that. So mine are freedom, authenticity, fun, creativity, and growth. And that's also the values for my company because Iowa Studios, by the way. Wow. Just throwing that in there. So when I did that exercise in my job, or at my job, I knew those were my values, like not only through the list and narrowing it down, it's because everyone at the table who was giving their values and saying them out loud they were saying values that I was snoozing at. Like they sounded so boring.
Didn't even see those on the paper. You didn't even that was on here.
I was like falling asleep. I was like, sounds so boring. It was like, I don't know. It was just like discipline and you know, family and security, safety. It was just boring. It was just giving boring to me. And I was like, I need to be doing something a little bit more creative. I can be very strategic and I can be very like serious. Yeah. I like working and I like structure, but I crave having fun. Every day needs to be fun. Like he can be in a situation where he's just like same old thing, grind, and like it could be very like raw or masculine, which I love that for him. But I need every day there needs to be a treat. We're getting ice cream, or we're eating lunch somewhere new, or I'm working somewhere new. Like I can't sit in one spot and just do the same thing unless I'm like editing a video. Like that's where I lose time. And like the editing is so dynamic and novel that it doesn't matter. But like every day needs to be new. That's why I like to travel often. I like going to new places. Like I love switching things up. And I couldn't work in an environment where it was the same every day. I was in an environment where I told people like, hey, let's have team calls where we're not talking about work. And they were blown away. And they were like, that is such a good idea. I was like, maybe we can play something like, what's that game? Like Heads Up. Oh. Or like, and I don't even like games. Like it was like Heads Up or 21 questions, literally. And they're like, oh my God, that is so fun. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. I didn't know in the moment that I valued fun, but if I look back at my life, I hated school because I didn't hate school, but school's a snore fest. I didn't like going to class. My senior year, I probably went to like 10 classes total. But I also had like 3 jobs because I loved doing things. I'm an executor. I like achieving things. I like doing, again, that's another value.
Checklist mode.
I love, me and my friend Katie, shout out to you for watching. We get into checklist mode where we just like love creating tasks and doing them. It's actually not healthy, and I'm not trying to glamorize it, but I'm obviously still mentally ill about it. Like,
but you like doing things. You like, I like doing executing.
I like executing, but I didn't like going to class because I'm like, okay, boring. I could do that, you know, in my free time. Again, revolving my life around my life, and school was like a side character. But I was like, I want to work. So I was like doing Amazon Prime student ambassador stuff. Like I was an event planner for the campus, and then I also was an interning at the corporate job that I ended up quitting. Honestly, looking back, it's like the same shit that I do now.
Yeah.
Like I like brand deals and I like influencing and stuff, but it's not my whole thing. And then I like a little bit of serious, and then I like a little bit of fun. And like at Swab, the organization we were event planners at, we were both presidents, and it was like our own little business. We got to manage people. We got to like, you know, create campaigns. They give us a lot of freedom. Like we had budgets. Like, pretty wild. It's crazy looking back, but that was a really big jumping point for our leadership skills, all of our like business skills. Like I feel like that 4-year experience taught me so much. And I didn't realize not everybody was getting that until I went out into, not only in the corporate world, but when I started freelancing, which is basically like your own little business. I was like, oh, people don't have these skills. Like I was shocked. Like organizing, just like leading people. And for events, we were running like 12 events in a semester, and a lot of different scales, like from like music, 20 people showing up to 2,000 people showing up. Vendors, like we had to coordinate. We would have documents. Like people knew what was going on. Values. So just look at the patterns in your life. Identify what decisions you're making and why. Why did you make certain decisions in your life? Like look at the pivotal moments, but even in the day to day, why do you always crave X? Why are you always thinking about X when you shouldn't be? All these things you shouldn't be doing, think about that. Why do they happen? Because that's probably telling you, indicating the theme that keeps coming back in your life. And that has a lot to do with your values. So anyway, my last point is just that like when you identify those, like those values are going to make you rich. Wow. Physically and mentally. I think when you start living by them, you identify them first, then you start living by them, you are going to see a lot of shifts in your life. Who you hang out with, what you do with your time, and then how you create the life that that you want to live. Because you have your vision, right? Which is here. I picture it as like the last point, because then you're working your whole life, you're trying to get to this vision, right? And then the values keep you from going around here and here and here. Like you can still have this vision and then you're going all over the place because you don't have any constraints. You need something to keep you in line. Yeah. Right? That's how you become successful. Successful people are consistent and they're determined. And that's because they have the vision and they see it and they don't go out of bounds. So how do you not go out of bounds? You stick to the constraints that are holding you in so you can get there eventually. Yeah. And another thing I'll say, like with when you say your values make you rich, what that makes me think is, I just think of like an extreme example, because like what you value is what defines rich or poor. You know what I mean? Like if I could be making $1 million a year, but if I don't care about money, and I care about family, for example, I'm making $1 million a year, but I spend no time with family. Yeah, I would think I'm very poor. Right. Because you wouldn't even notice the money. Yeah. You'd be like, I don't have any time to spend with my family. Yeah. But, the opposite situation, like you're making enough money to survive, but you get to spend all the time that you want with your family. You know what I mean? Then you would feel rich. You know what I mean? And you can't even make those decisions to put yourself in the second situation rather than the first situation if you don't know your values. So that's like another angle of this. Like the only way to get to the place where you are like rich is if you know your values and you move toward them. Yeah, no, that's just so good. Like I feel like people are lost when it comes to their life because we overvalue money. Yes. That's just the first elephant in the room. Second, actually, we overvalue money And that's because that's the constraint we use. And that's not the constraint that you want. Right. Because if we're using money as a constraint for any decision we're making, we are going to set aside all the things that actually make you happy, because the values are things that should actually be making you happy. Happy. Ooh, I'm so excited. They should be actually making you happy on a deeper level, like soul level. And when you make decisions on money, you're basically saying F everything else. Or who knows? It could be up in the air. If you take a job for strictly on money and you're not thinking about okay, maybe this job gives you a lot of money, but there's not a lot of growth. And one of your top values is growth. If you're not growing, you don't feel happy.
Right.
You are going to have all this money and feel miserable. Right. Because you're not growing.
Or it pays you a lot of money and you get no freedom. And that's a problem if you value freedom.
Exactly. You know? And that's a situation I kind of was in, where freelancing was great. I got a lot of money and I did make decisions based on money. I was like, how many clients can I fit in 1 hour? And how can I play this game? Which was ironically, I was using my values in the wrong way. I was trying to have fun and get creative, but for not the value that I needed to, and it was optimized for money. And I was making money. I got to a point where I was making 6 figures, which I thought would take so long for me to do. Right. Because again, everyone tells you that's another milestone, make 6 figures, do this, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it shouldn't be compromising your values. Yeah. And to me, having a lot of clients at some point was compromising my freedom. And when I didn't feel free, it doesn't matter how much money you have, I didn't feel rich. And when you put your value in money, I'm going to say it's not great, because there's always another level with money. Yeah. So even if you achieve what you think you want to achieve, and I know this is obvious, but just really, if you think about it, with values, there's no level to achieve. How do I say it? With freedom, I know what is free and what is not free to me.
It's binary.
It's very clear. There's no okay, once I'm this free, I need to get even more free and even more. Unless, again, my life is I'm trying to grow in a certain period of my life. But generally, I know what feels like freedom and I know what doesn't feel like freedom.
Or growth. You know what growth feels like.
And I know what it doesn't feel like. And of course, growth is a level, and there's levels of freedom. But as long as you're going towards what feels free, that's enough, right. But with money, you can go towards more money, but there's always going to be more money. And then there's always going to be something you can't afford. And there's always it's going to be this endless, trap.
It's a hamster wheel.
It's a hamster wheel.
I think one thing about money is that it's too thrilling. It's too potent of a dopamine source. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's almost like cocaine or alcohol or sex. You know what I mean? It kind of hijacks your mind. That's why casinos are so thrilling. You know what I mean? It's oh, I pull this thing and I get money. And it's and people get addicted to it. Right. And I think,
And are they really ever content and satisfied?
No, you're just running on that hamster
your
wheel. Value
should make you content and satisfied.
And I'm sure there are people out there who they would put money in their top 3 values, whatever. Sure. But for most people, they probably don't. And so in those situations, money is just a distraction. It's just something to lure you away from your values. It's just something to take you away from living within your values.
Right. And the thing is, one thing I want to emphasize is that I truly believe that if you go towards your values, this is not a situation where we're saying just don't F money and just live off of, some vibes. I'm saying that if you are doing what actually matters to you and you're living within that constraint, you can find a way to monetize what you like to do. And that's the point.
You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. And that way
you're smart. You're a human. You have a brain.
You will figure it out. Smart. And the thing is, that way, the thing that you actually want to do is making you a lot of money. So would you rather be in a situation? Okay, which situation would you rather be in? You're in a situation where you're not maximizing any of your values, you're not really living by them, you're not fully content, but you're again making as much money as more than you can even think of.
$200,000 a year.
But it's not fulfilling you. You're always trying to chase something else with that money because you're not getting close to your values, or you are living a life where you get to exercise all of those values every single day. You're having fun, you're achieving things, you're working with a team. And okay, sure, in the beginning, maybe you're not making a lot of money, But then maybe with that, you know, having a team is really important to you. And then you guys start working together and you find ways to monetize what you do. Okay, let's post content. Okay, let's start working with this brand. Let's try to get sponsors. Let's try to do this. Or you're, you know, making a product and you figure out with that team and the creativity and achievement, everything, you start creating income from yourself, for yourself. So now not only are you happy, like just truly happy and content, you're making money while you're happy.
Right.
That to me, I feel like is a lot better of a situation to be in, because you're never chasing.
Yeah. Even if you're making less money at the end of the day, I would much rather take that second situation. To
me, one looks like chasing, one looks like attracting. And I think the attracting is is such a better situation to be in.
Right.
I'm not going to be chasing this man. I'm going to be attracting people. Right. And then I get to choose what I want to keep.
Yeah.
And when you're chasing, you're not using your brain clearly. You're distracted, you're foggy, you're always in a scarcity mindset, you're thinking everything's going to be lost. And like, I found myself in a situation when I had the money, I was always chasing fulfillment other ways. I would use that money to buy clothes and buy experiences because I was like, I need to create more fun, I need to create more freedom, I need to be free, so let me go on this $5,000 trip. And it's like, did I really need the $5,000 trip, or could I just lay off one of my clients?
Yeah.
Like, and then, but seriously, like that's how it happens. And then it takes you to be in credit card debt or in a situation to be like, oh, like this is not, the math isn't mathing here.
Right.
I'm making all this money, but I'm trying to use that money to find freedom when freedom is free. And I can make choices that are free to make me feel more free.
Just thinking back for the past few months, like in this new journey, like I don't need to spend any money. Like I don't need to eat out. I don't even need to eat.
I know. I've
been dieting for the past 2 weeks. But like I feel like dieting was so hard in my job because it was like I was just bored. I wasn't engaged. I wasn't like excited about the work. But now like I'm just so excited. Like I could go all day and like forget to eat.
I have not eaten. Great. I'm not even trying to say that to be that person. But I'm not even trying to say this to be that person, but truly I have a coffee over there that I took 2 sips of and this is not great, but I need to I forget. But
the reason I bring that up because like I don't mind spending money on food like how you don't mind spending money on clothes. You know what I mean? So like you shopping to kind of fill that void or whatever. Like I would fill that void with like eating food or like going out to nice restaurants or whatever. Yeah. So, but now in this situation, we haven't gone to any nice restaurants. We went in Austin, but that was because we were like meeting up with people. Right. You know what I mean?
And we wanted to show them a good time and stuff.
But like here at home,
we don't really eat out. Before we were going to like
every week.
Nobu. Yeah. Really?
Yeah, every week we would go out for date night. We'd go get sushi. We'd go to some restaurant. We'd go to North all the time. Yeah, you know?
North Italia, by the way.
Yeah, it's so bomb.
So good. But yeah, like these days, I'm just like, give me a McChicken. I'm good.
I don't even need that.
I know,
just
but
give
like
me that chicken salad I made yesterday.
Ew, I'll put a picture here. This is his chicken. No, you called it a salad.
Yeah,
this is a meat box. That's what that was. Anyway, we're eating scraps, and I'm not saying that to like glamorize not eating, but I'm saying that because truly I am doing so much that matters to me. Like I'm not looking for escapes,
right?
Like often, and actually it's been harder to escape. I have to like push myself to escape these days because I'm like, sit down and watch this damn movie. Like stop trying to make a post. Right? Like I feel like, oh, I want to make art out of everything. Like now for me, I get to make art out of my life, which is like the number one goal because that's what I like doing. I'm always documenting things. I'm always making stories.
It's that creativity. It's that fun.
It's fun for me to do that. And like, ooh, like I love how editing can turn just like a shitty video. And like I filmed a video for a brand the other day. He helped me. It was so bad. The clips were so bad. And I made a cute video out of it. I'm like, this is why I love editing. It can just make anything look nice. So I have to like these days force myself to just do normal things, because the breaks are good. If you're an entrepreneur and you're doing things, you're like working all day, it is good to have these breaks,
right?
But lately, to me, the breaks don't feel like escapism. They feel like taking a shower,
right,
or going on a walk.
Like my breaks: going on a walk, playing music, meditating,
even
taking a
talking
shower, going
people.
on a run, talking to you, going to the sauna.
Yeah, he's a pamper himself kind of guy.
And working out, you know what I mean? It's like all these things, they don't really cost extra money.
And I know, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of these things are like, when you're fulfilled, you really don't need all of this extra
thrilling
stuff.
things.
You really don't. Like, and that is coming from a shopaholic. Like, and I'm not talking, there's levels. I'm not talking about like, I'm a girl who's like, oh, I like to buy one shirt every often. Like, I can spend and I enjoy it. Okay, so when I'm telling you, as a shopaholic and someone who loves accumulating things and like shopping and trying on things, whatever, I'm telling you, I have not had that urge. It feels, even if I do have the urge, it takes me a long time to get to the decision where I'm like, okay, pull the trigger. Now it's like, I don't care about this top. I want to make sure my video does well. Like, I want to make sure I have enough time to think through my new strategy. Like, set up this podcast. Like, that's more important to me now. And it's almost kind of scary, because I'm starting to realize that like those other things will not fulfill me. And I had an idea about that then, but I'm getting to this point where I'm realizing, like, when you go toward your mission, which is a whole other conversation, but when you go toward your mission, which your mission should be something that's like lifelong, like it takes for fucking ever to finish,
like getting paid to live.
It's a lifelong journey, just like happiness. Lifelong journey. You're constantly making choices to make sure you're in line. It's never going to stop, right? So when you realize that your mission is the only thing that is truly going to fulfill you, which is going to take forever, okay, you're like, oh, like shopping and hanging out, like that's never going to fulfill me. Like, and when you actually realize that, you're like, I have no other choice. Yeah. Like, I have no other choice.
This is the only way I can be happy.
This is the only way. And that's actually how I came to the conclusion of like how to live this life. I was like, I have tried everything that I could think of that would fit. I've tried being a student. I've tried working corporate. I've tried freelancing. And it's like, now I have no choice but to see if this entrepreneurship thing is for me, because I've always felt it. I knew I wanted to start something. So I was like, this is the last option left. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a good thing when you're forced to get paid to live. So I tell my friends, like, if you're scared to quit, your life isn't hard enough right now. You have to make it hard. You have to force something to be uncomfortable. So you're forced to get paid to live, because it puts some kind of fire under you that I got to make my passions. Because usually when you quit the comfort of the institution, the job, school, whatever it is, you're forced to think, how can I trade my skills for money? Okay. And then your skills are typically what is really easy for you to do. And a lot of times I think that overlaps with what you love doing. Sometimes like I'm good at like organizing. Is it necessarily what I would want to do for people all day? No, but it's a part of how I have to get paid to live, because I have to be organized in order to, so like doing something like content creation on all these platforms takes a lot of organization. And that's what I'm going to sign up to do first, to trade, for money later, because I have that skill naturally. It's something I already like to do. And I think when you're in a situation when you don't have people to rely on, you have to look, okay, what can I do? What do I like to do? Like, how can I make it work? And then trade that for money. And I think that's why people who have left comfortable situations, a lot of successful people, entrepreneurs, they were in a situation where they had to make it work. And that's why they did. And when you see a little bit working, you're like, okay, that's enough to keep it up a little bit longer. And then, okay, maybe a little bit longer. It's like, you just keep going, and then you create this life. And then while you're doing it, you're like, I might as well make it what I want if I'm doing this already. And then you're in a situation, who knows, 5-10 years later, where you're like, everything I'd like to do is my job. Yeah.
Any reflections on this first episode?
Is
there anything that we haven't said that you wanted to say?
I love an action-oriented thing. I always like doing things. So I like making sure what I'm saying is actionable. Like, this is not another corporate meeting where we're going to sit and talk for hours and you're not going to know what to do next.
Yeah. Do you have something in mind? Because I just thought of something.
Oh, go off.
I would say it would be cool. Maybe just take inventory of your life and maybe try to find a number between 0 and 100, where 0 is the worst life and 100 is your ideal life, your dream life. and just take inventory and figure out where you are. Just give yourself a number, or maybe give yourself a range, because you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. Generally, what range do you find your life in? And I think that could be just a starting point for a lot of people if they want to go on this journey of getting paid to live and living their dream life.
Yeah, I love that. Like taking inventory of your life. I like that. I really like that. I think my follow-up step is to choose your values if you haven't already.
Yep.
And if you already have chosen your values, take another look at them. Put them somewhere that is visible. If you're a vision board girly, vision board it, put it on your vision board. If you already know what your values are, maybe with that inventory, maybe what you can do is start comparing the two. Like, I know you said it on a spectrum, like a scale, a range. But even if you want to list out like, okay, what's in my life right now?
Make a checklist.
Make a checklist. Yeah. Like, what's in my life right now? My job, my family, my friends. Like, kind of start seeing what portions like take up the range, and then also start comparing them, like the vibe of these things with your values. Do they align?
Yeah.
Let's just say like let's just say you're in accounting and you want to study fashion. You're in accounting and you want to study fashion. In your free time, all you're looking up is runway shows, and you're studying, outfits and models and designers, and you're not working for a fashion company, period. So you're not even doing accounting for a fashion company. Let's think about that. Like, maybe your value isn't necessarily fashion, but something in fashion is aligning with your values. And like, why is that not aligning with what you do 40 hours a week? And like, just take the inventory, make sure you have your values, pick them, and then if you do have them, measure them against what takes up most of your life. And that could just be the beginning of you crafting your story. Like crafting the story where you get paid to live.
Yeah.
So that is it. Thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, I can tell you have values.
If you figure out your number, drop it in the comment section below. Like, what's your range? What's your number? We want to know.
So they're dropping the percentage of like 0 to 100.
0 to 100.
Not getting paid to live and getting paid to live. Where do they feel like they are?
Yeah, where do you feel like you're at?
That's a good one.
It can be one number. It could be a range. Whatever you want.
Yeah, I like that. We're gonna put ours too.
Yeah,
we'll put ours.
I mean, I'll just say I feel like I'm 80 to 100%
right now.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm same.
Yeah,
I feel like 80 because like before with my freelancing, I think I was like 60, and I feel like I've definitely jumped up since then. And it's not clear. Like we're still figuring it out, right? Like we're still crafting. Like, do I want to have a team? Do I want to have a brand? Do I want to sell products? It's
evolving.
Do I like? We're still figuring it out, but it's so much closer. I know the feeling almost feels like 100%.
Some days are definitely 100%. Some days aren't as great, but they're still good. You know what I mean? I still have the freedom. I feel like I'm still growing. I still have so many new relationships I'm developing, and I have this wonderful relationship here.
Drop your number. Stick around. Make sure you turn on the notification bell so you know when we upload next. And also, I just wanted to mention we're going to be having guests on these episodes, and they're specifically going to be people who are just like you and I, everyday dreamers.
No billionaires.
Maybe, for now.
Maybe for now. Later. But
unless it applies.
I like your approach, like just regular people, relatable people.
Normies, just like you and I. Like, I think that's important to me because I want people to feel like they have to take action. I want you to
give people examples.
I want you to feel very close to the guests that I bring on here because that is the reality. Like we're all doing the same thing and it's just as hard at all levels.
Entrepreneurship is not this glamorous, glorious situation. It's dirty
and hard. It's hard. Uncomfortable.
It's messy.
It's sweaty. And
it's really sweaty.
And I want to bring in people. We're gonna sweat together. Like I want to bring in people who are in the like just starting, like just figuring it out, still like confused because I
trying to take a leap.
There's usually in every guest, there's usually something you can learn from them.
Yeah,
and then there's something that you can relate with them on, even if it's stuff they haven't figured out yet. Like you can relate to like, you know, being unorganized or feeling like a mess and feeling like you're unclear on your vision. Like I think that's just, we want to talk about the realities, and that's probably the number one reason we started this, is like this is the reality of starting something new. And we're on YouTube, we're on all the streaming platforms.
We are. Damn.
When we upload it, we will. We haven't uploaded this obviously. And thank you for watching, and
thanks for watching.
I'm excited to see those numbers. Okay.
See you next time.
See ya. Bye.